If I could go back and restart investing in my 20s, I would do it way differently. Not because I lost everything, not because I made some crazy mistake, but because when you first start, everything feels more complicated than it actually is. You see people online talking about stocks, crypto, side hustles, or even passive income, and it makes you feel like you're already behind. That's how a lot of people in their 20s feel. You want to start, you know you should start, but you either feel like you don't have enough money or you feel like you don't know enough yet. And because of that, you wait. That's the biggest mistake. If I had to start over in my 20s, I would stop waiting to feel ready. Because the truth is, most people never feel ready. They just either start or they just keep pushing it off until years go by. And the crazy part is, your 20s are probably the best time to start. Not because you have the most money, because most people don't, but because you have time. And time matters more than people realize. When you start early, even small amounts begin to matter. Not because it makes you rich overnight, but because it builds the habit, and that habit is what changes your life. So if I had to start over, this is exactly how I would invest. First, I would stop thinking I need a lot of money to invest. That mindset keeps people stuck for way too long. A lot of people think investing is only for people with extra money, or people who have their whole life figured out. That's not true. If you can start with a small amount and stay consistent, you are already ahead of people who keep saying that they'll start later. Because later turns into next year, then next year turns into 5 years, and now you're older with more responsibilities and still haven't started. So the first thing I would do is to keep it simple. Not trying to look smart, not pretending I know everything, and not chasing random hype. I'd focus building on a base. Before even thinking about trying to grow money fast, I'd make sure I can actually keep money, because that's another problem nobody talks about enough. A lot of people don't have an investing problem, they have a money leaking problem. They invest a little here and there, but they overspend constantly. Random subscriptions, fast food, impulse buys, clothes that they don't really need, and trying to look rich before they're rich. And then they say they can't invest. So if I had to start over, one of the first things I'd fix is my spending. Not in a boring, miserable way. I'm not saying never enjoy your life. I'm saying I'd make sure my money actually has a direction. Because there's no point in investing in every month. You're also destroying your progress with careless spending. The next thing I would do is build a small emergency cushion first. Because investing is a lot harder when every little problem forces you to pull your money back out. If your car breaks down, if something comes up, if you lose work for a bit, you don't want every setback to destroy your plan. So I would build a small safety net first. Not some perfect huge amount that takes forever. Just enough so that one problem doesn't completely throw me off. Then after that, I'll start investing consistently. And this is where I think a lot of people mess up. They think investing has to be exciting. It doesn't. In fact, the more boring it is, usually the better. If I had to restart, I would stop looking for the perfect stock, the perfect entry, the perfect time, the perfect strategy, because that search for perfection makes people do nothing. I would focus on consistency over trying to be clever, because most people in their 20s do not need to become market geniuses. They need to become more disciplined. That's it. Discipline beats hype, consistency beats intensity, and patience beats trying to get rich quick. I would also stay away from trying to turn every dollar into some crazy win. That mindset is pretty dangerous, and especially when you're young, it's easy to think, I'm still early, let me take big risks. And sometimes that works, but a lot of times it just turns into gambling without better branding. There's a difference between investing and just hoping. If I had to start over, I would build in a way that I could actually stick with. Something simple, something realistic, something I could keep doing even when life gets busy or motivation drops. Because there's another truth nobody wants to hear. The best investing plan is not the smartest one on paper. It's the one that you can actually follow for years. And honestly, I'll stop comparing myself to people online. You go online and see people claiming that they made insane returns, bought this stock at the perfect time, turned a small amount into something massive, and suddenly your own progressive feels slow. But slow is normal. Slow is how most real progress looks. Most people are not becoming financially strong from one crazy move. They're doing it from steady habits over time. And that's the part social media makes look boring, even though that's usually the part that actually works. If I had to restart, I would also focus less on looking like I'm good with money and more on actually being good with money. Because those are two different things. A lot of people want the image, like the nice car, expensive clothes, always spending, and always being outside. But behind the scenes, they have no real base. No investing habit, no savings, no control. Meanwhile, the person building quietly may not look flashy, but 5 years later, they're in a way better position. That's the mindset I would want in my 20s. Not trying to impress people, trying to build something real. And one of the biggest things I remind myself is that investing in your 20s is not about becoming rich fast. It's about becoming the type of person who puts the money to work instead of letting it disappear. That identity shift matters. Once you start seeing yourself as someone who saves, invests, and thinks long term, your choices begin to change. You waste less, you think more clearly, you become less emotional with money, and you stop treating every paycheck like it's just there to be spent. That's when real progress starts. So if I had to start all over in my 20s, this is what I would focus on. I'd stop waiting, I would stop overcomplicating it, I would fix my spending, I'd build a small safety net, I would invest consistently, and I'd think long term. Nothing fancy, nothing fake, Nothing that sounds cool for a thumbnail but falls apart in real life. Just a real plan I could actually stick to. Most people don't fail at investing because they're dumb. They fail because they never start. Or they start emotionally or inconsistently and with no real plan. And if you're in your 20s right now, you do not need everything figured out. You just need to start building better habits now, so the future self isn't sitting there wishing you started earlier. That's the real advantage. Not being perfect. Starting early enough to let time do its job. If you're in your 20s and trying to figure this out too, you're not behind. But you need to start moving, because one day, even starting now is gonna feel late. If you want to check out my previous video about the 10 decisions in your 20s that decide your entire life, click right here. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.